Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first journey together through the cosmos of possibility. Tonight, as you settle into comfort, I invite you to look up at our familiar night sky and imagine something extraordinary. Picture our beloved moon, that silver companion that has watched over humanity for millennia, sharing the darkness with a second celestial dancer. What if Earth had not one, but two moons? This question may appear as pure fantasy, yet it provides insights into our world that are both profoundly scientific and profoundly moving. Tonight, we'll explore this alternate Earth together, discovering how a second moon would reshape everything from the rhythm of our oceans to the very foundations of human civilization. But first, let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly observed the moon? Did you experience a genuine moment of connection with that ancient light, not just a fleeting glance as you hurried inside? For most of us, it's been too long. We live under the same moon that illuminated the faces of our ancestors, that guided sailors across unknown waters, and that witnessed the first stirrings of human consciousness. Yet we barely notice it anymore, this celestial lighthouse that has been humanity's most constant companion. Our moon is remarkable in ways that even astronomers sometimes forget to mention. It's unusually large for a satellite, roughly 1/4 the diameter of Earth itself. This makes it more like a double planet system than a typical planet-moon relationship. Mars has two moons, but they're tiny, irregular rocks, probably captured asteroids. Jupiter has dozens of moons, but most are specks compared to their giant host. Our moon is special, and it has shaped every aspect of life on Earth in ways both obvious and subtle. Now, imagine if we had inherited two such companions. Imagine stepping outside on a clear night and witnessing two moons suspended in the velvet sky. Perhaps one is the familiar silvery orb we know, while the other glows with a slightly warmer golden hue. They might dance together, sometimes close enough to appear as a celestial figure eight, other times positioned on opposite horizons, bathing the world in a gentle, doubled light. The very thought stirs something ancient in us, doesn't it? There's a reason that science fiction writers and dreamers have long been captivated by worlds with multiple moons. It speaks to our deep desire for wonder, for skies more mysterious and beautiful than our own. But beyond the poetry lies fascinating science, and tonight we'll explore both. Let's begin with the most immediate and dramatic change: the tides. Our single moon currently orchestrates one of Earth's most fundamental rhythms. Twice each day, the moon's gravitational pull lifts our oceans, creating high tides, while the areas between experience low tides. It's a dance between celestial mechanics and fluid dynamics that has persisted for billions of years. Add a second moon, and this dance becomes a complex symphony. The timing and intensity of tides would depend entirely on the orbital relationship between our two lunar companions. If they orbited in sync, following each other around Earth like children playing follow the leader, we might experience super tides of extraordinary height followed by incredibly low ebbs. Imagine coastal areas that are completely submerged for hours, then reveal vast stretches of exposed seafloor where tide pools teem with life adapted to these extreme cycles. But perhaps our two moons follow different rhythms. One might complete its orbit in our familiar month-long cycle, while the other traces a different path, maybe faster, completing its circuit in just 2 weeks, or slower, taking 6 weeks to return to the same position. The interplay between these cycles would create tidal patterns of bewildering complexity and beauty. Picture the Bay of Fundy, already home to some of Earth's most extreme tides, under the influence of two moons. The water might rise and fall with such dramatic variation that entire ecosystems would evolve to thrive in this ever-changing environment. Mangrove-like forests might stretch for miles inland, their roots designed to survive both extended floods and lengthy droughts. Creatures might evolve with the ability to predict these complex tidal patterns, perhaps developing an internal chronometer more sophisticated than any human timepiece. The implications ripple outward from the coasts. Rivers would experience backflow effects far upstream as ocean tides push against their currents. The Thames, the Hudson, the Amazon, all would pulse with these doubled rhythms, creating unique habitats where fresh and salt water mingle in patterns unlike anything we know today. Consider how marine life might adapt to such conditions. Fish species might evolve complex migration patterns, timing their movements not just to seasonal changes, but to the intricate dance of dual tidal cycles. Some creatures might become incredibly sensitive to gravitational changes, developing organs that could detect the subtle variations in tidal pull created by different lunar configurations. Whales and dolphins, already remarkable navigators, might develop even more sophisticated methods of oceanic travel. They might learn to ride the complex current systems created by dual tidal influences, using the interaction between different tidal streams as highways across the oceans. Their songs might incorporate references to lunar positions, creating a form of aquatic astronomy passed down through generations of marine mammals. Coastal birds would face entirely new challenges and opportunities. Species that feed in tidal zones might need to completely reimagine their behavior, developing flexible feeding strategies to cope with unpredictable exposure of feeding grounds. Some might evolve the ability to predict complex tidal patterns, becoming living barometers of lunar influence. But let's pause here and consider something even more fundamental. Would life have evolved at all in such a world? This isn't an idle question. Many scientists believe our moon played a crucial role in making Earth habitable. Its gravitational influence helps stabilize our planet's axial tilt, preventing wild climate swings that might have made complex life impossible. The moon also may have helped slow Earth's rotation from what was once a frenzied 6-hour day to our current comfortable 24-hour cycle. The presence of two moons could potentially intensify or completely disrupt these stabilizing effects. Much would depend on the size and orbital characteristics of our second companion. A second moon of similar size to our own, orbiting in harmony, might create an even more stable Earth, with climate patterns so regular that evolution might have followed entirely different paths. Imagine a world where seasons are not just predictable, but precise to the hour. The intricate interaction between the two moons produces remarkably consistent microclimates. In such a world, life might have specialized to an even greater degree. We might have evolved forests where every tree knows exactly when to bud, when to fruit, and when to enter dormancy. Birds might migrate with the precision of clockwork, following flight paths timed to the combined lunar cycles. The Amazon rainforest, already a marvel of biological complexity, might have developed even more intricate relationships between species. Plants might time their flowering to specific lunar configurations, creating a calendar of blooms that follows the complex rhythm of two moons. This could lead to incredible specialization among pollinators, with different species of bees, butterflies, and birds evolving to take advantage of specific dual lunar flowering periods. Or perhaps the reverse would be true. Two moons might create a world of such complex environmental variation that life would need to be extraordinarily adaptable. Evolution might have favored generalists over specialists, creating a biosphere of remarkable flexibility and resilience. In this scenario, we might see creatures capable of thriving under a wide range of tidal and lighting conditions, perhaps developing multiple seasonal behaviors activated by different lunar configurations. The night sky itself would be transformed in ways both subtle and profound. Our ancestors used the moon's phases to mark time, creating the first calendars and helping to organize the agricultural cycles that allowed civilization to flourish. With two moons, each following its own phases, timekeeping would become far more complex and far more beautiful. Imagine the variety of nights we might experience. Sometimes both moons would be full, bathing the world in enough light to read by, creating what we might call white nights that never truly darken. During such nights, nocturnal animals might behave differently, perhaps remaining active throughout the night instead of retreating during the brightest hours. Plants that are normally day bloomers might open their petals under this doubled illumination, creating night gardens of extraordinary beauty. Other times, both moons might be new, offering skies darker than any we know today, where the Milky Way would blaze across the heavens with startling clarity. Certain deep sky phenomena, such as the glow of distant galaxies or the subtle aurora effects created by Earth's interaction with the solar wind, may become visible on these darkest nights. Between these extremes would be endless combinations, one moon waxing while the other wanes, creating asymmetric patterns of light and shadow. Half-moon nights might offer a choice between silver light and golden light, each illuminating different aspects of the landscape. The romance and mystery of such nights would surely have inspired entirely different mythologies and art forms. Consider how photography and visual arts might have developed differently. Artists would need to master the interplay between multiple light sources of different intensities and colors. Painters might develop techniques for capturing the subtle color variations created when silver and golden moonlight mix, creating hues that have no equivalent in our single moon world. Speaking of mythology, consider how profoundly a second moon would have shaped human culture. Our ancestors looked up at the single moon and saw faces, rabbits, and gods. They wove stories around lunar eclipses, created calendars based on lunar phases, and developed concepts of duality from the moon's constant cycle of growth and decay. With two moons, these cultural developments would have been far more complex. Perhaps one moon would have been seen as masculine and the other feminine, creating mythological systems based on their interactions. When the moons were close together, it might have been seen as a time for unity and cooperation. When they were on opposite sides of the sky, it might have signified conflict or balance. Ancient Greek mythology might have developed entirely different pantheons. Instead of a single moon goddess like Artemis, we might have had twin lunar deities, perhaps sisters who sometimes danced together and sometimes pursued separate paths across the heavens. Their mythological interactions might have explained everything from the changing tides to the cycles of human emotion. Religious systems might have developed around the idea of dual oversight, two celestial guardians watching over humanity, each with different attributes and responsibilities. The complex patterns created by their combined phases might have been interpreted as a divine language, leading to sophisticated forms of astrology and spiritual practice that would seem exotic to us today. Imagine religious ceremonies timed to specific dual lunar configurations. Wedding ceremonies might wait for the rare alignment when both moons appear to touch in the sky, symbolizing the joining of two separate beings into a harmonious whole. Funeral rites might be conducted when the moons are at their greatest separation, representing the journey of the soul from one realm to another. The practical implications for navigation would have been enormous. Sailors and travelers have long used the moon's position to determine direction and time. With two moons, navigation would become both more complex and more precise. The angle between the moons, their relative positions to the horizon, and their phases would provide multiple reference points for determining location and time of night. Polynesian navigators, already renowned for their ability to cross thousands of miles of open ocean using only natural signs, might have developed even more sophisticated techniques. They might have created mental maps based on the interaction of two lunar cycles, memorizing the precise positions of both moons at different times of year and in different locations. These navigational systems might have led to different patterns of human migration and cultural exchange. With more precise navigation tools available, ancient civilizations might have maintained contact across much greater distances. The Mediterranean might have been crossed more frequently, leading to earlier cultural exchanges between Africa, Europe, and Asia. The Pacific might have been traversed by larger, more regular trading expeditions. But let's return to the physical effects on our planet. The gravitational influence of two moons wouldn't just affect our oceans. The solid Earth itself would experience increased tidal flexing, a constant, gentle stretching and compressing that might have significant geological consequences. This additional stress might increase volcanic and seismic activity. Regions along fault lines might experience more frequent earthquakes, but perhaps smaller and more regular ones, preventing the buildup of catastrophic pressure. Volcanic activity might follow the lunar cycles more closely, creating predictable patterns of eruption and dormancy. In some ways, this might make Earth a more geologically active but less catastrophically dangerous world. Instead of rare, devastating earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, we might have frequent, manageable geological events. Civilizations might adapt to this rhythm, learning to harness volcanic energy on predictable schedules or timing major construction projects to coincide with periods of minimal seismic activity. The Ring of Fire around the Pacific might become an even more dynamic region, with volcanic activity ebbing and flowing in patterns connected to the dual lunar cycles. This might create unique ecosystems adapted to regular volcanic disturbance, perhaps forests that have evolved to benefit from periodic ash deposits or species that have learned to predict and prepare for regular seismic events. The increased tidal flexing might also affect Earth's magnetic field. Our planet's magnetic field, generated by the motion of molten iron in our core, protects us from harmful solar radiation. The additional gravitational stress from a second moon might influence these deep currents, potentially creating a stronger or more variable magnetic field. This could have profound implications for life. A stronger magnetic field might provide better protection from cosmic radiation, potentially allowing evolution to explore paths impossible in our current world. High altitude and polar regions might be more hospitable to complex life, as the enhanced magnetic protection would reduce the harmful effects of cosmic radiation at these normally vulnerable locations. Or a more variable field might create periods of reduced protection, leading to higher mutation rates and more rapid evolutionary change during certain parts of the dual lunar cycle. This could result in a biosphere that experiences regular pulses of evolutionary innovation, with new species emerging more frequently than in our more stable world. The aurora displays created by the interaction between solar wind and Earth's magnetic field might become far more spectacular and frequent. Instead of being primarily confined to polar regions, aurora might appear at lower latitudes during periods of enhanced magnetic activity, creating light shows visible from much more of Earth's surface. The effects on weather patterns would be equally complex and fascinating. Weather on Earth is driven by the uneven heating of our atmosphere by the sun, but the moon also plays a subtle role. Changes in atmospheric pressure follow lunar cycles, and some researchers believe the moon influences the jet stream and storm patterns. With two moons, these influences would be amplified and complicated. We might see weather patterns with longer, more complex cycles. Storm seasons might follow the rhythm of both moons, creating periods of relative calm, alternating with times of intense meteorological activity. The interplay between solar heating and dual lunar influences might create weather phenomena unlike anything in our current experience. Imagine hurricane seasons that follow not just annual patterns, but complex cycles based on the relationship between our two moons. A hurricane might gain strength when both moons are full and positioned to create maximum tidal stress on the atmosphere, or it might dissipate when the moons are in configurations that promote atmospheric stability. Monsoons might arrive with even greater predictability, timed not just to seasonal changes, but to specific configurations of our celestial companions. Indian farmers might plan their crops around elaborate calendars that track not just the arrival of seasonal rains, but also the intensity variations created by different dual lunar configurations. The jet stream, that river of high-altitude wind that helps determine weather patterns across entire continents, might follow more complex paths. During certain lunar configurations, it might shift northward or southward, bringing unusual weather patterns to regions that normally experience predictable climates. This could create temporary climate zones that appear and disappear based on lunar cycles. El Niño and La Niña patterns in the Pacific might become even more complex, with dual lunar influences adding another layer of variability to these already intricate climate cycles. This might make long-term weather prediction both more challenging and potentially more precise, as the additional lunar variables could provide more data points for understanding atmospheric behavior. The beauty of such a world extends beyond the practical into the realm of pure wonder. Think about how our literature and art would have developed differently. Poets might speak of moon-tangled nights when the two celestial bodies create complex patterns of shadow and light. Shakespeare might have written of lovers meeting under the silver moon while parting under the golden moon, creating entirely different metaphorical frameworks for romance and separation. Painters might develop entirely new techniques for capturing the subtle interplay of silver and gold illumination. The Impressionist movement might have emerged centuries earlier as artists struggled to capture the complex lighting effects created by dual lunar illumination. Color theory itself might have developed differently as artists learned to work with the unique color combinations created when different types of moonlight mixed. Architecture too would be transformed. Windows and courtyards might be positioned to capture specific combinations of moonlight. Gothic cathedrals might have developed even more complex rose windows, designed to create specific patterns when illuminated by different lunar configurations. Islamic architecture might have incorporated dual moon phases into geometric patterns, creating buildings that revealed different aspects of their beauty depending on which moons were visible. Temples and observatories might be designed with twin domes or openings, each oriented to one of the moons. Ancient Stonehenge-like monuments might be far more complex, with stone arrangements designed to mark not just solar events, but the intricate dance of dual lunar cycles. These monuments might have required mathematical understanding far beyond what we typically associate with ancient civilizations. Cities might develop different sections that come alive under different lunar conditions, quiet residential areas that flourish under the gentle light of one moon, and bustling market districts that thrive in the brighter illumination when both moons are full. Night markets might follow the lunar calendar, with certain goods and services only available during specific moon phases. The entertainment industry would be fundamentally different. Instead of planning outdoor concerts for clear weather, event organizers might time performances to specific lunar configurations. A symphony might be designed to be performed only under the light of 2 full moons, with the music incorporating themes that reflect the doubled celestial illumination. Sports might develop around lunar cycles as well. Perhaps certain games could only be played during specific moon phases, when the light conditions created the optimal balance between visibility and challenge. Night baseball might require different strategies depending on whether the game was played under one moon or two, with outfielders needing to adjust their positioning based on the complex shadow patterns created by dual illumination. The psychological effects on human behavior would be subtle but significant. Many people report that their sleep patterns and moods are influenced by lunar cycles, though scientific evidence for these effects remains limited. With 2 moons creating more complex and varied lighting patterns, these influences might be amplified or completely different. We might have evolved to be more adaptable to changing light conditions, developing superior night vision or more flexible circadian rhythms. Human eyes might have evolved to be more sensitive to the subtle differences between silver and golden moonlight, perhaps developing the ability to distinguish between different types of lunar illumination in ways that would seem almost supernatural to our current sensibilities. Or perhaps the complex lighting patterns would have led to the evolution of different sleep cycles entirely. Periods of deep rest during the darkest nights, lighter sleep during single moon illumination, and active waking periods during the bright double moon nights. This might have led to societies that functioned on multiple overlapping schedules, with different groups of people active during different lunar phases. The concept of shift work might have developed much earlier, as communities learned to take advantage of the varying amounts of natural nighttime illumination. Certain professions might be associated with specific lunar conditions, perhaps craftsmen who work under single moonlight for precision tasks, while laborers take advantage of double moon nights for larger projects that require good visibility but not fine detail. The romantic implications alone would have transformed human culture. Instead of planning a proposal under the full moon, lovers might wait for specific configurations, perhaps when the 2 moons are closest together, creating a celestial embrace overhead. Wedding ceremonies might be timed to the cycles of both moons, creating anniversaries that follow complex but meaningful patterns. Poetry and love songs would incorporate references to dual lunar cycles. A lover might promise to return when the silver moon waxes and the golden moon wanes, creating romantic imagery far more complex and beautiful than our simple lunar references. The language of love itself might be richer, with dozens of different terms for different types of moonlit nights. Children growing up in such a world would develop an intuitive understanding of complex cycles and patterns that might make them naturally gifted mathematicians and astronomers. The ability to mentally track two independent but interacting cycles would be as natural as counting, potentially leading to civilizations with sophisticated mathematical and scientific traditions developing earlier in human history. Educational systems might be built around lunar observation. Children might learn arithmetic by calculating the intervals between different dual lunar configurations. Geometry might be taught through the changing angles between the two moons. Algebra might emerge naturally from the need to predict when complex lunar patterns would repeat. The development of mathematics itself might follow different paths. Instead of starting with simple counting and basic operations, mathematical thinking might begin with pattern recognition and cycle prediction. This could lead to earlier development of advanced concepts like trigonometry and calculus, as these tools would be immediately useful for understanding and predicting dual lunar behavior. But let's consider a more challenging question. What if our two moons were not in stable, eternal orbits? Moons can and do fall toward their planets over astronomical timescales. Our own moon is actually moving away from Earth at about the same rate your fingernails grow, but gravitational interactions can work both ways. If we had two moons, the gravitational interactions between them might create orbital instabilities over millions of years. One moon might gradually spiral inward while the other moves outward. The inward spiraling moon would create increasingly dramatic tidal effects as it approached, leading to massive flooding and geological disruption. Such a scenario might have created a world where life evolved to survive periodic catastrophes. Every few million years, as one moon approached and finally crashed into Earth or broke apart into rings, life would need to survive a period of dramatic environmental change. This might have led to evolution favoring not just adaptability, but also the ability to preserve genetic information through catastrophic events. Perhaps life would have developed sophisticated methods of dormancy, allowing organisms to essentially hibernate through the worst periods of lunar instability. Seeds might evolve to remain viable for thousands of years, waiting for stable conditions to return. Animals might develop the ability to enter suspended animation, similar to but far more advanced than the hibernation we see in some current species. Or maybe evolution would have favored creatures capable of rapid genetic change, able to adapt quickly to new environmental conditions as they arose. This might lead to species with incredibly flexible genetic structures, perhaps capable of activating different genetic programs in response to environmental cues. The end result of such a dynamic system might be a biosphere of extraordinary resilience and diversity. Having survived multiple catastrophic lunar events, life on such a world might be better prepared to handle other disasters, from asteroid impacts to climate changes. The repeated cycles of destruction and renewal might have accelerated evolution, leading to more sophisticated life forms developing more quickly than in our more stable, single-moon world. Intelligent life emerging from such a system might have fundamentally different approaches to technology and civilization. Instead of building permanent structures, they might develop modular, transportable technologies. Architecture might focus on flexibility and rapid assembly rather than permanence and grandeur. Such civilizations might also have different concepts of time and planning. Instead of thinking in terms of generations or centuries, they might naturally plan on geological timescales, understanding that major environmental changes are not rare catastrophes, but regular features of their world. This long-term thinking might lead to more sustainable approaches to technology and resource use. Of course, there's another possibility entirely. What if one of our moons was not a moon at all, but a captured asteroid or comet? This scenario, while less stable than two proper moons, might create its own unique conditions. A large captured asteroid, perhaps a few miles across, would create much weaker tidal effects than a proper moon, but it might have other interesting influences. Its irregular shape might create unusual gravitational anomalies, leading to localized effects on ocean currents and weather patterns. If it had a highly elliptical orbit, bringing it close to Earth at regular intervals, it might create dramatic but brief periods of enhanced tidal activity. Such a pseudo-moon might also be rich in metals or other materials rare on Earth. If it occasionally shed meteorites during its closest approaches, it might seed our planet with unusual minerals, creating localized deposits of rare elements that could have influenced the development of technology and civilization. Imagine ancient civilizations that learned to predict the arrival of these celestial gifts, timing their metallurgical advances to coincide with meteor showers from their irregular companion. They might develop religions around the idea of gifts from the sky, or create elaborate ceremonies to welcome the return of their erratic celestial visitor. The Bronze Age might have arrived much earlier if regular meteor showers delivered copper and tin to ancient peoples. The Iron Age might have been preceded by a sky metal age, as civilizations learned to work with the unusual alloys delivered by their celestial companion. This could lead to technologies developing in completely different sequences than in our world. The visual spectacle alone would be remarkable. Unlike our steady, predictable moon, this second companion would appear to dance across the sky in complex patterns. Sometimes it might appear as bright as Venus, other times barely visible even on the clearest nights. Its changing distance would create a dynamic element in the night sky, a celestial performer that never quite repeats the same show twice. Artists and poets in such a world might develop an aesthetic appreciation for irregularity and change that would be foreign to our more predictable sensibilities. Beauty might be found not in symmetry and repetition, but in the endless variations created by an unpredictable celestial companion. This might lead to art forms that celebrate chaos and change rather than order and permanence. Music might develop differently as well, with compositions that incorporate unpredictable elements, reflecting the irregular rhythms of their erratic celestial companion. Instead of the mathematical precision of classical music, we might see the development of improvisation and controlled chaos as dominant musical forms much earlier in human cultural development. But perhaps the most profound changes would be in our understanding of time itself. We currently live with nested cycles, day and night, the phases of the moon, and the changing seasons. These rhythms have shaped not just our biology, but also our fundamental concepts of time, repetition, and change. With two moons, time might feel more complex, more layered. Instead of simple monthly cycles, we might think in terms of combined lunar periods, the time it takes for both moons to return to the same relative positions. Depending on their orbital periods, this might happen every few months or once every several years. Such complex temporal patterns might have led to different philosophical concepts of time and causation. Instead of linear progression or simple cycles, time might be understood as a spiral or braid, with events repeating but never quite the same way twice. This could lead to different approaches to history, prediction, and planning. Ancient historians might develop methods for recording events that account for complex cyclical patterns. Instead of simple chronological lists, historical records might be organized around dual lunar cycles, recognizing that similar events might be more likely during similar celestial configurations. This might lead to earlier development of statistical thinking and pattern recognition in human affairs. Civilizations might develop the patience for very long-term projects, understanding that the most favorable conditions for certain activities might only occur every few years when both moons align properly. Architecture, agriculture, and even warfare might be planned around these complex cycles, creating societies that think and plan on longer timescales than our own. The Great Wall of China might have taken even longer to build, with construction timed to optimal lunar configurations for moving massive stones. Egyptian pyramids might be oriented not just to cardinal directions and solstices, but to complex dual lunar alignments that occur only once every several years. This might result in monuments of even greater precision and complexity than we see in our own history. The technological implications are equally fascinating. Our ancestors used the moon's predictable motion to create some of humanity's first precision timepieces. With two moons following different cycles, clockmaking would have become far more sophisticated much earlier in human development. Ancient civilizations might develop mechanical computers, systems of gears and wheels capable of predicting the complex interactions between two lunar cycles. The mathematical and engineering skills required for such devices might accelerate the development of other technologies, leading to earlier advances in navigation, agriculture, and construction. The Antikythera mechanism, that remarkable ancient Greek computer designed to predict celestial positions, might have been just one of many such devices. With the need to track dual lunar cycles, mechanical computation might have become common much earlier, potentially leading to an ancient information age centuries or millennia before our own. The need to track two independent but interacting cycles might also lead to earlier development of advanced mathematics. Concepts like trigonometry, calculus, and complex numerical systems might emerge from the practical necessity of predicting lunar positions and their combined effects. Universities might emerge around observatories designed to study dual lunar interactions. The medieval Islamic world's contributions to mathematics and astronomy might have been even greater, as scholars grappled with the complex orbital mechanics of two moon systems. The Renaissance might have come earlier, driven by the mathematical challenges of understanding dual lunar gravitational interactions. But let's take a moment to consider the simple human experience of living under two moons. Imagine walking home late one evening under the light of both your celestial companions. The familiar path is transformed by the interplay of silver and gold light, creating shadows within shadows, illuminating textures and details usually hidden in darkness. The sound of your footsteps might seem different in this doubled moonlight, more crisp and clear. The air itself might feel different, not just because of the increased illumination, but because of subtle effects on atmospheric pressure and humidity created by the complex tidal influences. Night-blooming flowers might open at different times depending on which moon is visible. Some might bloom only under silver light, others only under gold, creating gardens that reveal different aspects of their beauty throughout the night. The fragrance of these flowers might be timed to the lunar cycles, with certain scents appearing only during specific dual lunar configurations. You might pause in your walk, as humans have done for millennia, to look up and contemplate your place in the cosmos. But instead of seeing one ancient companion, you see two, each with its own character and rhythm. One might be waxing while the other wanes, creating a visual metaphor for balance and change that speaks to something deep in your evolutionary memory. The experience might feel both more connected and more mysterious than our single moon nights. More connected because the increased complexity of the celestial dance makes the sky feel more alive, more dynamic. More mysterious because the patterns are too complex to grasp intuitively, always holding the promise of revealing new relationships and meanings. Night fishing might become an elaborate art, with different fish species active under different lunar configurations. Anglers might develop an intimate knowledge of how various fish respond to silver versus golden moonlight, to the tidal patterns created by different lunar alignments, and to the subtle changes in water temperature and current that follow dual lunar cycles. Night photography would be a completely different art form. Photographers might specialize in different types of lunar light, developing techniques for capturing the subtle color variations that occur when silver and golden moonlight interact. Some might focus on the dramatic shadows created when both moons are visible, while others might specialize in the ethereal effects of light from a single moon. Children in such a world might grow up with a fundamentally different relationship to the night. Instead of fearing darkness, they might eagerly anticipate the different moods created by various lunar combinations. Families might have traditions around specific lunar configurations, perhaps gathering on the roof when both moons are full, or telling special stories during the rare nights when both are new. The lullabies sung to children might be more complex, incorporating the rhythms of both moons. Instead of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, children might grow up with songs that teach them to recognize the different phases and positions of their two celestial guardians. These songs might serve as both entertainment and education, helping children develop the pattern recognition skills that would be essential in a dual moon world. Childhood games might incorporate dual lunar elements. Children might play hide-and-seek games that change rules based on which moons are visible, or develop counting games that help them track the complex interactions between lunar cycles. Playground rhymes might help children memorize the intervals between different dual lunar configurations. Education, too, would be transformed. Learning to predict and understand the complex interactions of two moons would be a fundamental part of childhood development, like learning to read or do arithmetic. Children might develop an intuitive grasp of complex mathematical relationships simply from observing the sky each night. School calendars might be organized around lunar cycles rather than simple month divisions. Testing and important events might be timed to optimize lunar conditions, perhaps scheduling examinations during periods of optimal lighting for concentration or timing physical education classes to take advantage of specific tidal conditions for outdoor activities. The implications for human creativity and imagination are profound. Our myths, legends, and stories have always drawn inspiration from the natural world around us. With a more complex and dynamic night sky, the raw material for human imagination would be richer and more varied. Fairy tales might feature characters who gain different powers under different moon combinations. Folk stories might explain natural phenomena through the interactions of celestial siblings or lovers. Creation myths might describe how the world was formed by the dance of two celestial beings, each contributing different aspects to the natural world. We might have developed entirely different concepts of romance, mystery, and beauty. The idea of a once-in-a-blue moon event might be replaced with dozens of different rare lunar configurations, each with its own cultural significance. The folklore around these events might create a rich tapestry of traditions and beliefs that would seem wonderfully exotic to our single moon perspective. Marriage traditions might be incredibly complex, with couples choosing from dozens of different types of lunar wedding ceremonies. A couple might marry under ascending moons to symbolize growth and prosperity, or under crossing moons to represent the joining of two paths. Divorce might even be associated with specific lunar configurations, perhaps when the moons are at their greatest separation. Perhaps most intriguingly, a two-moon world might have led to different concepts of duality and balance. Instead of simple opposites, day and night, light and dark, good and evil, we might think in terms of complex relationships between multiple forces. Philosophy and religion might be built around the idea of dynamic equilibrium rather than static opposition. This could lead to more nuanced approaches to conflict resolution, more sophisticated understanding of complex systems, and perhaps a greater tolerance for ambiguity and change. Societies that grew up watching the complex dance of two moons might be naturally better at managing complex relationships and dynamic situations. Political systems might reflect this complexity as well. Instead of simple two-party systems or even multi-party democracies, governance might be organized around the idea of multiple interacting forces that must be kept in dynamic balance. Constitutional systems might be designed to handle not just checks and balances, but complex interactions between various branches and levels of government. Legal systems might incorporate concepts of cyclical justice, recognizing that circumstances change and that laws might need to be applied differently during different periods. This might lead to more flexible and adaptive approaches to jurisprudence, with legal precedents that account for complex social and environmental cycles. The scientific revolution, when it came, might have taken different paths as well. Instead of starting with simple mechanical models of the solar system, early scientists might have needed to grapple immediately with complex multi-body gravitational problems. This might have led to earlier development of advanced mathematics and a deeper appreciation for the subtle complexities of natural systems. Kepler's laws of planetary motion might have been discovered centuries earlier as astronomers struggled to understand the complex interactions between two lunar orbits. Newton's law of universal gravitation might have emerged from attempts to explain dual lunar tidal patterns. The scientific method itself might have developed differently, with greater emphasis on understanding complex systems rather than reducing phenomena to simple, isolated variables. Or perhaps the complexity would have delayed scientific understanding. The predictable motion of our single moon made it easier for early astronomers to develop theories about celestial mechanics. With two moons creating more complex patterns, it might have taken longer to recognize the underlying mathematical relationships governing their motion. But when that understanding finally came, it might have been more sophisticated and complete than our own. Scientists who learn to analyze two moon systems might be naturally better equipped to understand other complex gravitational interactions, from planetary systems to galaxy formation. The intellectual tools developed for dual lunar analysis might have accelerated the development of chaos theory, systems thinking, and complexity science by centuries. The Industrial Revolution might have unfolded differently as well, with more complex tidal patterns providing irregular but predictable energy sources. Early engineers might have developed sophisticated tidal power systems much earlier. Watermills and tidal generators might have become common centuries before steam engines, leading to a different trajectory of technological development. The precision required to predict dual lunar effects might have driven the development of better metallurgy and engineering much earlier. Clockmaking, already a crucial technology in our world's development, might have become even more sophisticated, potentially leading to earlier development of precision manufacturing and interchangeable parts. Maritime technology would certainly have evolved along different paths. Ships designed to navigate complex tidal systems might have developed advanced steering mechanisms and flexible rigging systems. Navigation instruments might have been far more sophisticated, combining celestial observation with tidal prediction in ways that would make even modern GPS seem simple by comparison. The age of exploration might have proceeded more cautiously but more systematically. With more complex oceanic patterns to understand, explorers might have spent more time studying coastal areas before venturing into the open ocean. This might have led to more thorough documentation of new lands and more sustainable approaches to colonization. Trade routes might have been established based on optimal dual lunar timing rather than simple seasonal patterns. Merchant vessels might time their departures to take advantage of favorable tidal configurations that occur only a few times per year, leading to different patterns of economic development and cultural exchange. The development of insurance and risk assessment might have advanced more rapidly as well. With more complex environmental variables affecting maritime trade, merchants and insurers would need sophisticated methods for calculating risk. This might have led to earlier development of statistical analysis and probability theory. But let's return to the more immediate human scale of experience. Imagine being a farmer in such a world. Your planting and harvesting schedules would need to account not just for seasonal weather patterns, but for the complex tidal influences on soil moisture and groundwater levels. Fields near rivers or coasts might be flooded or drained according to intricate patterns that take years to fully understand. You might develop an intimate knowledge of how your crops respond to different types of moonlight. Some plants might grow better under silver light, others under golden light. You might plant different varieties in different fields to take advantage of the varying illumination throughout the growing season. Your agricultural calendar would be a complex document, tracking not just seasons and weather patterns, but the intricate dance of your two celestial companions. Harvest festivals might be timed to specific dual lunar configurations, creating celebrations that occur at different times each year, but follow meaningful celestial patterns. These festivals might be far more elaborate than our own, incorporating traditions that reflect the complex rhythms of a two-moon world. Music, dance, and storytelling might all incorporate themes that mirror the orbital patterns overhead. The social implications of more complex temporal cycles extend far beyond agriculture. In our world, the simple monthly lunar cycle has influenced everything from religious observances to business cycles. With two moons creating more intricate patterns, social organization might become far more sophisticated. Communities might develop multiple overlapping calendars for different purposes. Religious observances might follow one lunar cycle, agricultural activities another, and social gatherings a third pattern based on the interaction between both moons. This might lead to societies that are naturally more flexible and adaptable, comfortable with multiple simultaneous rhythms and patterns. Work schedules might vary dramatically from our 9-to-5 routine. Some professions might work primarily during single moon nights, others during double moon periods. Night shifts might be highly specialized, with workers developing expertise in tasks that require specific lighting conditions. The concept of a weekend might be replaced by more complex cycles of work and rest that follow dual lunar patterns. Social hierarchies might develop around lunar expertise. Those who could predict and interpret complex dual lunar patterns might hold positions of high status in their communities. Lunar astronomers might be as important as priests or rulers, serving as advisors for everything from agricultural planning to military campaigns. The military implications of a dual moon world would be significant as well. Night battles would need to account for complex lighting conditions that could change dramatically during a single engagement. Armies might develop specialized units trained to fight under different lunar configurations. Siege warfare might be timed to take advantage of specific tidal conditions that could affect moats, rivers, or coastal fortifications. Naval warfare would be completely transformed. Admirals would need to be as skilled in predicting dual lunar tidal patterns as in traditional naval tactics. Battles might be won or lost based on superior understanding of how complex tidal currents would affect ship maneuverability during different parts of the engagement. Fortifications might be designed with dual lunar considerations in mind. Castle walls might include features that take advantage of complex shadow patterns created by two moons. Harbor defenses might be positioned to account for varying tidal ranges that could expose or conceal underwater obstacles depending on lunar configurations. The development of espionage and intelligence gathering might also follow different paths. Spies might be trained to move during specific lunar conditions, using their knowledge of complex lighting patterns to remain concealed. Secret messages might be timed to arrive during particular dual lunar configurations, adding an extra layer of security to sensitive communications. Consider how different our understanding of human psychology and behavior might be in such a world. If lunar cycles really do influence human mood and behavior, as many people believe, then dual lunar influences might create far more complex patterns of psychological variation. Mental health professionals might need to account for intricate cycles of emotional and cognitive change that follow the rhythm of two moons. Sleep research might have developed much earlier, as people struggle to understand how complex lighting patterns affect rest and dreaming. Circadian rhythm research might be far more advanced, leading to better understanding of how to maintain health and productivity under varying environmental conditions. The concept of mental illness itself might be different in a world where complex psychological cycles are accepted as natural and normal. Instead of viewing mood variations as disorders, societies might develop sophisticated methods for managing and channeling the natural psychological rhythms created by dual lunar influences. Educational systems might account for these psychological cycles as well. Teachers might learn to recognize when students are in optimal learning states based on lunar configurations, adjusting lesson plans and testing schedules accordingly. Different subjects might be taught during different lunar phases, with mathematics and logic during periods of mental clarity and creative subjects during times of enhanced imagination and intuition. The implications for art and creativity extend beyond what we've already discussed. Musical instruments might be designed to take advantage of the acoustic properties of different atmospheric conditions created by dual lunar influences. Certain instruments might sound better during specific lunar configurations, leading to orchestras that change their instrumentation based on celestial conditions. Theatre and performance art might incorporate dual lunar themes as fundamental elements. Plays might be written to be performed only during specific lunar configurations, with lighting effects that incorporate natural moonlight as part of the stage design. Actors might develop techniques for modifying their performances based on the psychological effects of different lunar combinations on their audiences. Architecture would certainly reflect dual lunar influences in ways we haven't yet considered. Building orientation might need to account for complex patterns of natural lighting throughout the night. Interior design might incorporate features that take advantage of different types of moonlight, perhaps reading nooks positioned to catch silver light for detailed work and social areas oriented toward golden light for gathering and conversation. The very concept of privacy might be different in a world where natural lighting conditions vary so dramatically. Window coverings and room design might be far more sophisticated, allowing residents to control not just the amount of light entering their homes, but the type and quality of that light. Religious architecture might reach even greater heights of complexity and beauty. Stained glass windows might be designed to create different effects under silver versus golden moonlight. Gothic cathedrals might incorporate additional architectural elements that reveal different aspects of their beauty, depending on which celestial companions are visible. The economic implications of dual lunar influences would ripple through every aspect of society. Energy costs might vary dramatically based on the availability of natural lighting for different types of work. Some industries might operate primarily during specific lunar phases, creating economic cycles that follow celestial rather than simple seasonal patterns. Real estate values might fluctuate based on a property's orientation relative to optimal dual lunar viewing or lighting conditions. Homes with perfect positioning for viewing rare dual lunar configurations might command premium prices. Commercial properties might be valued based on their ability to take advantage of different types of natural nighttime illumination. Insurance and financial markets might develop around dual lunar risk assessment. Agricultural insurance might account for the complex growing conditions created by variable lunar influences. Shipping insurance might calculate premiums based on the tidal complexity that vessels would need to navigate during their planned routes. Currency systems might even incorporate dual lunar symbolism. Coins might bear images of different lunar configurations, with rare denominations depicting unusual celestial alignments. The concept of lunar interest might develop, with financial instruments that adjust their returns based on the complexity and rarity of specific dual lunar patterns. As we near the end of our journey through this imaginary world, it's worth reflecting on how differently the scientific understanding of our universe might have developed. The complexity of a dual lunar system might have led to earlier recognition that the cosmos is far more intricate and interconnected than simple mechanical models suggest. Albert Einstein's theories of relativity might have been anticipated centuries earlier by scientists struggling to understand the complex gravitational interactions between Earth and its two moons. The recognition that space and time are interconnected might have emerged from attempts to predict the subtle timing variations in dual lunar orbits caused by relativistic effects. Quantum mechanics might have developed along different paths as well. The wave-particle duality that seems so strange to us might seem more natural to scientists who grew up observing the wave-like interactions between two gravitational fields. The concept of complementarity, that objects can have pairs of properties that cannot be observed simultaneously, might seem obvious to observers familiar with dual lunar systems where the gravitational effects of one moon can mask or modify the effects of the other. The search for extraterrestrial life might have proceeded differently as well. Scientists familiar with the complex conditions that can arise from dual lunar systems might have a better understanding of the range of environments where life could potentially develop. This might lead to more sophisticated searches for habitable planets around other stars, focusing on systems with complex gravitational interactions rather than simple single-planet scenarios. Our understanding of climate and planetary evolution might be far more advanced. Having observed how complex gravitational interactions affect everything from atmospheric circulation to geological activity, scientists might be better equipped to understand climate change and planetary development in general. This might lead to better long-term environmental planning and more sustainable approaches to planetary stewardship. The philosophical implications of living in a dual lunar world extend to our most fundamental concepts about existence and meaning. In our world, the single moon has served as a symbol of constancy, reliability, and the passage of time. With two moons following complex but predictable patterns, our concepts of order, chaos, and meaning might be fundamentally different. We might be more comfortable with complexity and paradox, having grown up observing celestial mechanics that are intricate but not random. The idea that multiple forces can interact in complex but meaningful ways might seem more natural, leading to philosophical systems that embrace rather than resist complexity. Religious and spiritual traditions might focus more on understanding and harmonizing with complex natural rhythms rather than seeking simple truth or absolute principles. Prayer and meditation practices might incorporate awareness of dual lunar cycles, with different spiritual techniques appropriate for different celestial configurations. The concept of destiny or fate might be more nuanced as well. Instead of simple linear progression toward predetermined outcomes, people might think in terms of complex probability patterns that shift based on multiple interacting influences. This might lead to more sophisticated approaches to personal and social planning that account for multiple variables and potential outcomes. But let's take a moment to consider the simple, profound beauty of stepping outside on a clear night in such a world. The darkness overhead would be punctuated by two ancient companions, each following its own rhythm, each contributing its own character to the night. Sometimes they would appear to chase each other across the sky. Sometimes they would hang at opposite horizons like celestial bookends, and occasionally they would seem to dance together in configurations so beautiful that they would stop traffic and bring people out of their homes just to witness the sky. The night sounds would be different too. Nocturnal animals would have adapted to more complex lighting conditions, perhaps with different species active under different lunar combinations. The owl's call might vary depending on which moon provides the primary illumination. Night-blooming flowers might release different fragrances under silver versus golden light, creating a more varied and complex sensory experience. Even the air might feel different on such nights. The complex tidal influences on atmospheric pressure might create subtle variations in how sound travels, how humidity feels, and how the wind moves through trees. These variations might be so subtle as to be nearly imperceptible, but they would add layers of richness to the nighttime experience that we can barely imagine. Children in such a world might grow up with a sense of wonder about the night sky that would be even more profound than what we experience under our single moon. They might learn to recognize not just the phases of each moon, but the relationships between them. A child might run excitedly to their parents to announce that the moon sisters are holding hands, or that the silver moon is chasing the golden moon across the sky. These children might develop a natural intuition for complex patterns and relationships that would serve them well throughout their lives. The mental skills required to track and predict dual lunar interactions might make them naturally gifted at understanding other complex systems, from ecology to economics to human relationships. As adults, they might maintain this sense of wonder and pattern recognition, leading to societies that are both more scientifically sophisticated and more aesthetically appreciative than our own. The combination of technical skill required to predict dual lunar effects and the artistic sensibility needed to appreciate their beauty might create cultures that seamlessly blend science and art in ways that would seem remarkable to us. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, perhaps you'll step outside for a moment and look up at our familiar moon. See it not just as a constant presence, but as one specific solution to the complex equation of planetary formation. Appreciate its particular size, its specific distance, and its unique relationship to our world. And then, just for a moment, let your imagination add a second companion to that ancient dance. Picture the shadows they might cast together, the tides they might create, and the civilizations that might have flourished under their doubled light. Let yourself feel the wonder of possibilities, the beauty of worlds that exist only in the realm of thought. Because in the end, whether we live under one moon or two, whether our tides are simple or complex, whether our nights are predictably lit or mysteriously varied, we remain creatures capable of wonder. We can look up at the night sky and ask not just what is, but what if? And in that question lies the essence of what makes us human, our ability to transcend the boundaries of our experience and find beauty in the infinite possibilities of existence. The moon that lights your way home tonight has witnessed the entire story of our species. It has watched us discover fire, develop language, build civilizations, and reach beyond our planet to touch its ancient surface. It has been our companion through every triumph and tragedy, every moment of discovery, and every dark night of the soul. Whether we live under one moon or two, that relationship between earth and sky, between the human imagination and the cosmic dance, remains one of the most beautiful aspects of our existence. It reminds us that we are not separate from the universe, but part of it, conscious participants in a cosmic story that began with the first stars and will continue long after our own chapter has ended. In the quiet moments before sleep, when the day's concerns fade and the mind begins to drift, we can still feel that ancient connection to the cosmos. The same gravitational forces that move our oceans also move through our bodies, composed as we are of star stuff and ancient water. The same light that illuminated the faces of our earliest ancestors still shines down on us, connecting us across the vast spans of time and space to every human who has ever looked up in wonder. Sweet dreams under our single faithful moon, and remember, in the infinite cosmos, somewhere among the countless worlds that orbit distant stars, there might indeed be a planet graced with two lunar companions, where beings much like us step outside on clear nights and marvel at the complex beauty of their doubled celestial dance. If you've enjoyed this journey through the realm of possibility tonight, I hope you'll join me again soon for another exploration of the wonders that surround us. And wherever in the world you're listening from tonight, under whatever sky you call home, remember that the universe is far stranger and more beautiful than we can possibly imagine, filled with worlds both real and dreamed, each offering its own unique perspective on the magnificent complexity of existence. The night sky above us is not just empty space punctuated by distant lights, but a vast ocean of possibility, where imagination can sail freely among islands of fact and continents of conjecture. Tonight, we visited one such island, a world of two moons, and found it rich with possibility, beautiful with potential, and profound in its implications for how we understand our own remarkable planet. Rest well, dream deeply, and let your mind wander freely among the stars, where endless possibilities wait to be discovered by curious souls brave enough to ask, what if?